Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That's right, we're talking about Civil War. Civil War, released in 2024, written and directed by Alex Garland, a movie that follows a group of reporters and photographers through a modern-day Civil War. Let's get right into the 10 essential aspects of a movie. First is plot. Does the movie follow a comprehensive story arc and is plausible within the world that has been created? Yes, and I want to give a lot of credit to the story arc that they decided to follow. I think there was a lot of characters that they could have used in this kind of story. However, they chose photographers to follow, and I think that was a fantastic decision. I don't know if there was a better type of character they could have chosen. Second is attraction. Does the movie have an interesting premise with a high entertainment value? Absolutely. I think the idea of a modern day American Civil War is very interesting. However, the timing is perfectly executed. With the election coming up and the tension rising with that between the two candidates and the people that support them not liking one another so much, the timing of the release of this movie makes it even that much more interesting. So credit to them for releasing this movie right when it needed to be released. Third is theme. What message or truth is the movie trying to convey? Now obviously this movie is very heavy in theme. I think the message you're trying to convey is that this plausible future is not one that we want. How gruesome war really is, and that you do not want it at your doorstep. One thing I really appreciate is how neutral they kept the movie politically. The message could have easily been derailed if they gave you enough information to determine which side was more Democratic or Republican, but they just didn't. They didn't let you make that decision. They did not give you enough information. I think that was very well done and allowed the audience to focus in on what was important, which is how gruesome war really is, which is another aspect of the movie that I really enjoyed. There are several moments in this movie that I felt disgusted. They were gruesome, but they needed to be. They needed to be disturbing to relay a strong message. I think they did just enough to not feel overwhelmed, but also allow the message to hit home. I think they handled it with a lot of elegance and class. Fourth is dialogue. Is there a real feel to the conversations? The dialogue in this movie is done well. The conversations between the main characters feel like conversations that real friends who have known each other for a while would have. I think the conversations that were in tense scenes were done well and made the scenes even more tense. It really just added to the characters. Fifth is acting. Are the characters convincing? There is no bad acting in this movie. However, I just don't think the movie needed good acting. There's a lot of scenes in this movie that are just about imagery and what is happening, and that's what makes it good. It doesn't need really good acting for conversations or an image of a character and how they're handling a situation. So it just didn't allow actors to do what they do best. That being said, the main actress, Kirsten Dunst, I think she did a really good job here of portraying a character that felt like she had a lot of history, and she was at the end of her rope with the amount of things that she had done and seen. The supporting cast did a good job with the opportunities that they were given. 6 is cinematography. Is there a creative use of lighting, setting, and wardrobe to convey emotions? This is something that the movie does really well. The reason that the movie did not need great acting was because a lot of scenes conveyed a lot of emotion. I think they handled a lot of scenes very well and gave you perspectives that made you emotional and helped see the message that they wanted to convey. 7th is editing. This is all about the pacing of the movie. Now the movie is about an hour and 49 minutes long. I think it's a great length. I think some people are going to be frustrated with the ending of the movie. I think some people are probably going to feel it is a little abrupt. I personally enjoyed it. I think the ending was right where it needed to be. It was right on the edge of where I was feeling like, okay guys, hurry it up. I didn't have to feel that. I think they ended it at a good time. One thing that was great about the pacing was the character development. They allowed the characters to develop in the beginning before they started getting incredibly intense scenes. That allowed for the intense scenes to actually feel weight because you have been with these characters for a good amount of time and you actually care about them. Eighth is soundtrack. Now, this is a part of the movie that I actually did not like. There are several scenes that I felt were intense or emotional, and then all of a sudden a soundtrack would come on that was just not the tone of the scene. They really took me out of it and made me realize I was just watching a movie, which I did not like. I think they should have chose songs that had a better tone to match some of the scenes. I don't know why they chose to do some of the songs that they did, but I just did not like it. Ninth is directing. Now, this is the catch-all of the last 8 categories. The director is the one that's in charge. He has the final say at the end of the day and has to make all the decisions to have this movie flow well. Now, this is Alex Garland's 4th movie directing. He directed Ex Machina, Annihilation, and Men. I personally have not seen any of those movies, so I cannot judge him based on his previous works. But based on this movie, he did a great job. There's a lot of parts of this movie that I really enjoyed. I think he kept a nice, good focus and performed it well. The only thing I did not like was the soundtrack. 10th is time. Does it stand the test of time? Now, obviously, the movie just came out, so you won't be able to tell whether it will stand the test of time. My guess is that it won't, just because it's a very momentary, relevant idea. I think the idea is good, but it's so interesting because of the timing. I think farther on down the road, it'll be a movie that was looked at as a good movie, but it won't turn into a classic. Next is a review section. Now, Rotten Tomatoes critics give it an 82%, audience gives it a 77%, and IMDb gives it a 76%. I gotta agree with the Rotten Tomatoes critics. I think an 82% is fair. I think this is a very good movie. I'd be interested to hear what people are going to complain about. I think there's a lot to like about this film. Now, lastly, for the ranking. For 2024 entertainment, it's going to be number 1 above Ghostbusters. I will probably pick this movie up again to watch. I don't know if I'll ever do that for the new Ghostbusters. Now, for cinematography, it's obviously going to be number 1. I just think it represents cinema better than Ghostbusters does. It had a lot of emotion and a message to tell more than Ghostbusters did. Now, for the decade of 2020s, it's going to be the same on both sides just because I have not reviewed a movie yet outside of 2024. And finally, for all time on the entertainment side, it's going to be 3rd, just below The Mist and above Ghostbusters. I personally will probably pick up The Mist to watch more than Civil War, just because Civil War is a heavy subject. It is a hard watch. It is intense, and it's just a little easier to watch something like The Mist, which is a little more sci-fi and a little easier to just kind of put on. Now, for cinematography, it's going to be number 1 above Toy Story. I just think it does a better job. It is the best movie I've reviewed so far to represent cinematography in movies that convey emotions and a message. Now, that's all I've got for Civil War. Let me know what you want me to review next. Otherwise, I'm Mr. Majoritarian. Stay classy, San Diego.